My name is Mark Cunningham. I'm the Executive Director of Kobe's Family Services, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to our Storytime Banquet. I will admit that when Ann Stokes, our Director of Development, and Doug May, our Communications and Development Manager, first presented me with the idea of having a Storytime Banquet, I was a bit hesitant. So when it comes to reading and books, I was a bit of a late bloomer. When I was younger, I was, as they say, not the sharpest light bulb. I remember sharing at a banquet a few years ago that I was in the half of the class that made the top half possible. That was kind of the way that... By the time I got to high school and college, everything was fine, but I really struggled in elementary school. I didn't like elementary school at all. I went to Quarryville Elementary School, and Quarryville Elementary School is located close enough to town that there were kids who would be able to walk to and from school. I was not one of those kids. I rode the bus, but I knew that the kids who walked were able to get out of school 5 minutes early. Yeah. I remember the very first day of first grade, my teacher came to me and asked if I was a pedestrian, and I said, no, I'm brethren. But if it gets me out of class 5 minutes early, I'm willing to convert. So when I was young, like I said, I didn't read much, but I did like puzzles. I remember getting a puzzle book when I was younger. When I was, actually I would say when I was little, but I was never really very little. So we'll just go with younger. And so I have a couple of those puzzles from that puzzle book just to get a gauge of how smart this group is. So let's see the first puzzle. So you take a moment and see if you can connect the dots. Good. All right, I think you're there. Second puzzle. Right? You see the start and finish? In your mind, try to figure it out. Good. Next puzzle? Yeah. Which one is bigger? You have to look at it a little bit, but it's the one on the left. And the next one? So one of these is a square and one is not. You have to take a look and see if you can figure out which one is the square. And then the last puzzle, one of these is a square. And one is not, and you have to figure out which one is which. Good. Well, our agenda tonight is actually very simple. We're going to enjoy a good meal together, and then after the meal, we're going to enjoy some music from the Ridgeway Brass, and then we're going to enjoy the program. So there are two main reasons that we have this event. Number one is to share a little bit about what is happening in the life of Kobe's. And number two is to raise money for our ministries. So you will see that there are on your tables giving envelopes and some pens. If you would like to make a contribution tonight, we would certainly welcome that. Please, though, do not leave your contribution on the table. We have a box over here to my left, to your right on the table. Make sure that your contribution gets in there. If they stay on the table, they will likely get thrown away. So please make sure they get over there. Also, just a quick word about dessert. Your menu says choice of dessert. That's partially true. The servers are going to be putting down alternating desserts around the table. Please do not ask for a specific dessert. Just allow them to place the dessert, and then you're welcome to trade as you would like to trade. During the meal, we're going to continue to circulate some slides on the screen that provide additional information about what is happening at Kobe's. So at this point, then, I would like to call on Wilbur Rohr. Wilbur is the president of our board of directors to ask the blessing on our meal and our time together. And then following his blessing of the meal, please wait at your tables to be dismissed for the buffet. And I'm glad you're here. Thank you for coming.
Let us pray together. Our gracious Father in heaven, we pause to thank you for the many blessings that you pour out upon us each day. We want to thank you for this particular day, for the beauty of it, the sunshine, the warmth, the of a spring day in the middle of winter, and we just thank you for that. And we thank you for all the opportunities that were ours to enjoy this day. We thank you for the seasons of the year. We find ourselves near the end of the winter season, and we look forward with anticipation to spring with warmer weather and the fresh new flowers and new growth. And we thank you for these seasons of the year, and they remind us of your faithfulness to us. For you tell us in your word that as long as time will be, there will be seed time and harvest, and we thank you for that. Now, Father, we ask your blessing to be upon all those who have come here this evening to celebrate Kobe's Storytime Banquet. Thank you for their interest and their support in the work of Kobe's. And I ask your blessing to be upon Kobe's itself, upon the staff, the administration, the executive team, the board, and all the foster parents and adoptive parents who open their homes to children who are dealing with so many troubling circumstances in their lives. And Father, enable us to use every opportunity to share the love of God with the children and parents who come through our doors each day. And now we want to thank you for the food that is being soon be set in front of us to eat, and we thank you for it because we realize it's a gift from you and we appreciate it. And we ask that it might strengthen us to do your will, and we ask your blessing upon the hands that have prepared it and those who will serve it to us. Now guide each of us in the pathway you want us to walk. Bless us and make us a blessing to all those we meet along the way. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
So today is about story time. We'll examine how some of our favorite, am I on? We'll examine how some of our favorite familiar stories, and a few that are perhaps not quite as familiar, relate to the ministries that we have at Kobe's. And we'll show you that there are almost always stories within the stories. We'll tell you a fictitious story about how this banquet got planned, and along the way we're going to learn some lessons about the very real work that our employees and others are doing. This story takes place in my living room, which is simulated here. And you're going to hear a lot of examples and stories about acts of kindness, generosity, and doing God's work. Many by Kobe's employees, but many by folks just like you. Oh, hi, Ann. Come on in.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you today?
I'm well.
Good, good, good. Come on, have a seat. So thanks for coming over to work, and are you ready to dive into planning this banquet?
I am.
You know, in preparation for this, I've been doing some research and reading. I've been trying to get through this book. It's called Fundraising 101, A Guide to Planning Extraordinary Events, subtitled The Best and Worst Examples. And let me tell you, it's not riveting. Listen to this. It's necessary to connect with your donor through a cross-functional experience designed to elicit multiple sensory trigger points to foster an empathetic, co-symmetrical engagement, maximizing potential optimal outcomes based on your strategically developed, captivating message. I know. This does not help. This book's jargon is not going to work with our audience. I mean, we already know that we have the brightest, the best looking, the most well-informed, the most compassionate, and the most overly generous supporters that there are.
You are right about our supporters, Mark, and I agree. There's got to be a better inspiration than that book.
You know, we've done a lot of themes in the past, and I'm not sure where to go next, but I am sure that this is not the place to start.
Well, some of our Kobe staff from the permanency unit will be joining us today. We may hear some of their ideas and hopefully be inspired for a theme. They're going to be here soon. But besides that, Mark, are you okay? I know you're not nervous. I mean, you've done this many times before, but you seem a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, well...
I know it's not the furniture. This is pretty comfy, too.
Yeah, it's okay.
It can't be about the temperature. I mean, I know there's a lot of people in the room, but I'm feeling pretty comfortable. What is it?
You know, Ann, there's something off. There's just too much.
Too much what? I don't understand. Too much what?
You know, Ann, there's just too much hair. There, I said it. I'm not used to being on stage with somebody that has a lot of hair.
Oh, is that I can deal with that. Don't worry. I think Doug May, our new communications and marketing manager, he can help calm your nerves. Doug, are you out there?
I'm here for you, Mark. I'm here. I got you covered.
Good.
Now, I'm not complaining because I like my job, but sometimes I think maybe this is part of the reason I got it.
So, do you feel any better?
I actually do, thanks. And since it looks like he actually might have a little bit of a sense of humor, maybe Doug can be a barometer for our humor this evening. I wonder if he thinks this is funny. A bear walks into a restaurant, and the server says, "What would you like?" And the bear says, "I would like to have a grilled cheese." And the server says, "Well, I can certainly get you a grilled cheese, but why the pause?" And the bear says, "What do you mean? I'm a bear."
Mark,
Because of the pause.
you know,
Okay,
I said I'm here for you, but you got to work with me a little bit.
All right.
Okay then. How about we get back to planning this banquet?
Okay.
Do you think there's anything in this basket that can help?
Well, that's just it. There's nothing really in there for fundraising or events or Kobe's. We did have some friends with some younger children over recently, so we pulled some out of some of our old kids' books, and here's one of my old favorites that we pulled out. It's called The Cat in the Hat. I always like this one.
I'll get the door. I'm sure it's Ruby and Krista from Permanency. Hi, Ruby. Hi, Krista.
Hi, Mark. Hey, Mark.
Hey.
Mark just became preoccupied with the cat in the hat over there. And a little trip down memory lane, apparently. Until we get him back, let's get started. How are things at Permanency? What can you tell the banquet audience about your typical day?
This is really good stuff.
You know, Anne, there really isn't a typical day at the Permanency Unit. The Permanency Unit is contracted partnership with the Lancaster County Children and Youth Agency, where Kobe is the acting caseworker for biological parents and their children who have been placed in foster care. Not all of our cases are with children in Kobe's foster homes. Really, only about 30% are. Day to day, there is so much that must be done to meet regulations and so much that does get done because, well, it has to. But yes, we can try to give you an idea of what it's like.
That would be great. I think it'll really help people understand the work that you do.
Well, we can certainly tell you about our work and how difficult it is. We have raw discussions with parents whose children have just been placed into children and youth custody and put into foster care. As you can imagine, these meetings are very difficult for both the parent and the caseworker. We're responsible for discussing the situation that brought their children into care, whether it's physical or emotional or sexual abuse or even neglect. Think about how difficult that would be.
Yes, caseworkers really do struggle with those meetings. No one enjoys being confrontational. Then after those meetings, caseworkers are responsible to document everything that is discussed in the meetings and then follow up with referrals. That just means lots of time at the computer and on the phone and forms, and more forms.
And did we mention that we have to see kids every month? Oh, we have to assure their safety, and even if that means they're in Erie, Pennsylvania. Remember, every case we get is at a crisis point. There's no ramping up or easing in. Every case starts with the feeling like you're just climbing up a mountain, and then from there, that's when the chaos starts.
"Have no fear," said the cat. "I will not let you fall. I will hold you up high as I stand on a ball, with a book on one hand and a cup on my hat. But that is not all I can do," said the cat.
And there are always interruptions.
We do home visits and scheduled in-office meetings with the parents.
If we even get to that point. Unfortunately, arrests in the Kobe's parking lot aren't that uncommon either. Remember, we have these cases because of either abuse, neglect, or abandonment. These kids were at risk in their own homes. They need protection, safety, and a chance at something better.
"Now look what you did," said the fish to the cat. "Now look at this house. Look at this. Look at that."
Family visits are part of the court-ordered plan and often take place at our Kobe Street office. We have visit rooms. They're set up like in a little home or an apartment where children can share some normal activities with their parents, like cooking. They can play games together. Sometimes they even give them baths. These are really important as parents work toward their reunification. It's a good indication that the parents are committed to the process.
We also have, what? Constant interruptions. Sorry, I have to take this. Hello, you have a tag? Which case? Okay, when do you think you'll go? Do you need someone else to take it? Are you sure? All right, let me know what you find out. Thanks.
Interruptions are a way of life.
What's a tag?
A tag is a call from Childline, the statewide protective service program that indicates a situation of concern for the child. A report has been made documenting an issue that has put a child at risk and requires a caseworker to physically visit the child to investigate. It could be abuse, neglect, abandonment, or something else. We're required to send someone to check on it with either that day or within a week.
Thing 2 and thing 1, they ran up, they ran down. On the string of one kite, we saw mother's new gown.
Let's talk about the court process. We write all the petitions for court. We coordinate with lawyers and appear in court to testify for every case. Every case goes to court at least every 5 months, if not more. Then we hope that the courts make the best decision for the children. We really go through these cases on a personal level. These are not easy. Sometimes caseworkers have 12 at a time. Support for each other is really important.
Speaking of support, people should know that in addition to our exceptional caseworkers, we have an outstanding staff of assistants, case aides, and security. As you can imagine, this can be a high burnout profession, but we are so grateful to have an excellent, stable team.
You can see why trying to keep balance is so important. We have to have each other's back, because every once in a while, holding on to our core values and seeing through the mission, through the mess, is a challenge. Sometimes the tasks feel overwhelming.
That is good, said the fish. He has gone away, yes, but your mother will come and she will find this big mess. And this mess is so big and so deep and so tall, we cannot pick it up. There is no way at all.
And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't always work out. Sometimes the messes are too big to put back together. When the court says that the children shouldn't go back with their biological families, we complete that chapter of their story and prepare the children for their next step, their next chapter.
But thankfully, there are some success stories too. Every case starts with the goal of reunification for them to go with their parents. However, it isn't easy. About 15% of the families we work with do beat the odds, they do the hard work, and they meet the requirements to reunify with their kids. And we're there helping them every step of the way.
Then we saw him pick up all the things that were down. He picked up the cake and the rake and the gown, and he put them away. Then he said, "That is that." And then he was gone with the tip of his hat.
That's an overview of what we do at Permanency. We could take up the whole banquet, giving you details and telling you more examples.
Permanency really is a busy place.
You guys just gave a really good look at what life is like in permanency. We can't thank you and your staff enough for the very hard work you do. And I think without knowing it, Mark may have just stumbled upon our theme for this year's banquet.
Hey, I just heard my name. What happened? Oh, Krista, Ruby, hi.
Hi, Mark. Hey, Mark.
Hi.
Bye, Mark.
Oh.
Bye, Mark.
Okay. Well, thanks for. See ya. I have the feeling that I just missed something.
Well, Ruby and Krista shared information about what life is like on the permanent roller coaster that is our permanency unit. And you've solved our problem with the theme for this year's banquet. We can tie each of our ministries to a children's story. Abby, our Director of Family Life Services, is due here any minute, so we'll see what story she thinks explains the counseling center.
I like that. It just might work. You know, that's a little like the Cat in the Hat, too. We were kind of a mess on themes, not knowing what we're going to do, and now everything seems to be in order.
That should be Abby. Come on in, Abby.
Hi, Ann. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Abby. Do you want to help pick up all the things that were down?
What? No. Did I miss something?
No, you didn't. Mark just had an encounter with the Cat in the Hat. And
Oh.
well, let me explain it this way. As you know, we're planning the banquet, and we want to make sure we cover each one of our ministries. And so we thought that we just stumbled on a theme this year. We're going to tie each of our ministries to a children's book. Permanency just discovered the theme of Cat in the Hat. Do you have any suggestions for counseling?
That is a great idea. And yeah, I do have a suggestion. And actually, I have some books in my bag here. Oh, here it is. This is my favorite one. It's called The Invisible String. And it helps people connect with their loved ones and helps show people that they can connect with their loved ones almost like an invisible string. It's a bond of love that dispels loneliness. And you know, a lot of our children, this would be really helpful because of all the separation they go through.
That is a great message. Abby, can you read just a little bit of it for us, please?
I would love to read a little bit of it for you. And it's about this invisible string, and a mom is talking to her children about this string. And she said, "I don't see a string," said Jeremy. "You don't need to see the invisible string. People who love each other are always connected by a very special string made of love. But if you can't see it, how do you know it's there?" asked Liza. "Even though you can't see it with your eyes, you can feel it with your heart. And you know that you are always connected to everyone you love." And you know, Mark and Ann, it's really what counseling and therapy is all about. Trying to repair connections and provide our clients with manageable ways to increase their comfort and really take ease with their issues.
That's good, Abby. At the banquet, though, what would you like the audience to know about counseling?
Well, the first thing I would want them to know is that we have 8 therapists on staff that are licensed by the state of Pennsylvania. They're clinical and they're professional therapists who are also Christian believers. The therapy we provide is clinical in nature, but sometimes it has evidence-based processes wrapped around it. It's provided through the loving call to help people ease their pain. Our therapists were called to this profession because of their God-given gifts. And it's not a profession you take lightly. Actually, it's a really profession of service to others.
So where do people who use our counseling center come from?
Well, they come from all over the place. And in fact, in our counseling department, we actually serve more people outside of COBE's programs, even though we serve those within COBE's. And we help people of all ages, children, adolescents, adults, couples, but there's a waiting list for counseling, not just in the county, but in the state. And it's not uncommon for someone to wait 2 to 4 months to receive therapy. You know, Mark, many of our kids today face challenges. Almost 1/4 of young children in Pennsylvania under the age of 5 are considered at moderate or high risk for developmental, behavioral, or social delays. And that's displayed more in boys than in girls. And adding to that, we have social issues and tragic events that occur within their homes. It could be a car accident or a fire in the home, assault or the abuse that they go through, the opioid crisis, and a host of other things that put kids at risk and expose them to trauma. And you know, from 2007 to 2014, in middle school age, the suicide rate doubled. And that was the second leading cause of death for this age.
That sounds kind of dire, like a lot of invisible strings are being stretched too thin. Is there any good news?
Well, there is, Mark, and you know I'm the eternal optimist, and I know what I just said sounded desperate because the need is great. But over the past decade, there's been a general awareness increasing of the importance of mental health and how it needs to happen. 2/3 of kids in Pennsylvania, the ones I just talked about, are actually starting to receive some of these services. And young kids age 5 and under are beginning to even receive more developmental screenings, even in their physical health care visits. So progress is being made, but there's a long way to go. I'm so excited that the mental health is increasing and delivered. For example, COBE's implemented 2,200 sessions over the last 6 months. And on another note, a lot of progress is being made with evidence-based therapy and a success rate of EMDR therapy, and that's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Can you say that 5 times, Mark?
No.
Oh, come on, try. It's a psychotherapy that enables people to heal from the symptoms and emotional distress that are a result of disturbing life experiences. And repeated studies show that with EMDR therapy, people can experience the benefits that once took years to make a difference. You know, Mark, I have a lot more facts and details and stats I could give you and go on and on and on with the trends and the progress, but the bottom line is this: the need is great, and we're here to help as many people as we can.
Well, that's encouraging, but a 2 to 4 month wait sounds kind of tough, especially for kids.
Yeah.
What can be done about that?
Well, you know, the obvious answer is to hire more therapists, but they're very hard to find that are licensed. So COBE's and other agencies are trying to find ways to bridge that waiting time. For instance, children on a wait list for therapy might participate in one of our Incredible Years series, our Dine a Dinosaur program. It's an 18-week group session that, in addition to being an excellent standalone program, it also helps kids begin to get some of these skills before they can get into therapy.
So you mentioned the Dinah Dinosaur program. That's the puppets, right?
Yes.
Right. So maybe Dinah or one of the other puppets could make an appearance at the banquet.
That's a great idea. And actually, if you want to meet one of my friends, he's here tonight. Would you like to meet him?
Yes.
Oh, good. Wally, come on out. Hi, Wally. Hi, I'm Wally, one of the characters at the Incredible Years Dinah Dinosaur Group Therapy. My program uses puppets and videos and role play to coach and reinforce proper behavior. And look, Mark, I have a big book. Can you hold this for me? And this book we use in our sessions, and you know what? It really helps us to learn how to behave better.
Well, that's great. Hey, Ann, maybe this is another book we can use in the Storytime Banquet that we're going to have. Abby, are the children responsive to this kind of a therapy?
What do you think, Wally? Yeah, they're really responsive, and they become my friends in this. You know, we've had excellent results, and we have seen such an improvement in children over 18 weeks, Mark.
Well, that's great. Therapy and a show.
No, it is not entertaining. And Mark, it is not just a puppet show.
I got it. Thanks for telling us about that program. People should know about that. And we should make sure to put Wally in the banquet program. So, Abby, how would you define success in the counseling program?
Well, as you know, our clients are dealing with difficult issues, but the therapists are always working and trying to make ways to make those connections, like I talked about before, those invisible strings, to move away from their pain. Success comes in moving from the dark places into the light places. Many of the issues we deal with are ongoing, and the goal is to provide tools to help people keep moving forward.
Well, that's important. Thank you very much, Abby.
And you know, the Incredible Years and Dine a Dinosaur School program collaborates with another department at Kobe's, and that is our Family Life Education Department. And this is a department that offers all kinds of courses and classes, and Holly Harden is the supervisor of that department and could explain all of the things that happen in Family Life Education.
You know, funny you should mention that, Abby, because Holly is due here any minute.
Well, you'll be in good hands when she gets here. I need to get going because I need to check on a class that we're doing at Fulton Elementary, but thanks for letting me come.
All right. Bye, Abby. Thanks so much for the information. And the puppet show.
Mark?
I know, Abby, I know. Therapy is nothing to kid about.
Hi, Abby. You know, Mark, I like this idea of introducing the puppet therapy. It helps to highlight the great work of our counseling center.
You know, Ann, if we're doing stories and books from our childhood, I had a great joke book when I was younger that maybe we could dip into. The discussion of puppets reminded me of the time where my neighbor gave me a marionette that was broken, and I asked him if he needed anything in return, and he said no strings attached.
I don't know, Mark.
How about this? There were two cows grazing, and one cow said to the other cow, "Hey, are you worried about that mad cow disease?" And the other cow said, "Why would I? I'm a helicopter." No? What? So I went to the doctor the other day because I was having trouble sleeping. I told the doctor, one night I dream I'm a teepee. The next night I dream I'm a wigwam. The next night I dream I'm a teepee. And the next night I dream I'm a wigwam. And the doctor said, "Oh, that's easy. You're just too tense."
Doug, a little help here, please.
Two hydrogen atoms meet. One says, "I lost my electron." And the other one says, "Are you sure?" And the first one replies, "Yes, I'm positive."
Okay, Mark. Look, I'll do some research. I'll find an open mic night at a comedy club for you, but I don't think jokes and joke books are a real good parallel for Kobe's.
Right.
We like to have a good time and joke around, but we need to get a little focused. I think you were waiting for Holly.
Right. Never take a sleeping pill and a laxative on the same night.
Mark.
Hey, come on in, Holly.
Hi, Holly.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Holly.
Hello.
yourself comfortable. I know Mark really wants to talk to you about all that's offered through the Family Life Education Program. But if you'll excuse me for a few minutes, I'm just going to answer some emails. I'm sure you two can talk.
So, Holly, as we prepare for the banquet, it's our goal to try to tie each program to a different story.
Yes, I got Ann's text. I think a really good example for FLE is The Little Engine That Could.
Oh, that's great. I have it right here.
You see, our programs have been developed to fill a need in the community, much like the little engine took on the assignment that no other engine was willing to try. And we have plenty of programs.
So, Holly, when you say plenty of programs, what does that mean?
Well, for instance, the courses we have include Attentive Parenting, Family Nurturing, Incredible Years Autism and Language Delays, and the Incredible Year Series treatment model with Dinah Dinosaur Small Group Therapy for Children alongside a parent class, Parenting Wisely, Celebrating Families, Girls Circle, and Seeking Safety, to name a few. We have several workshops, such as the 5 love languages, communication, learning through play, and several that are designed specifically for children's ministry teams, such as serving children with special needs. And oh, there's our new kinship courses.
Whoa, slow down a little bit. Let's try to get a handle on this. Remember, I can only handle pretty simple puzzles. What you're throwing at me now is a lot more than that. I know that Family Life Education Department started its trainings for our staff and for our resource parents, but it has grown into so much more than that. So how does it work now?
As you know, FLE partners with schools, churches, and community groups to offer these courses. Courses are held at our building at 171 East King Street, but also at lots of other locations, like Lancaster Brethren in Christ Church, Crossset Ministries, Water Street Rescue Mission, Gaudenzia Services, Willow Street Mennonite, Spring Creek Church of the Brethren, Doan Elementary.
Wait. You're doing it again. I get it. We're in a lot of places.
Sorry.
That's all right.
You see, there's a lot of coordination involved in offering these courses. But the bottom line is that all our classes share the common goal of strengthening families and encouraging the positive development and potential of parents, other adults, and children, all working toward fulfilling COBE's mission.
Okay, you mentioned all the groups you partner with on those classes. Who pays for all of that?
Oh, sorry to interrupt, but I saw that question coming. I sent a text to Cindy Umberger, our Director of Business Operations. She should be here just about any minute.
Oh.
There's Cindy. Hi, Cindy.
Cindy. Hi, Cindy. Nice of you to drop in.
Hi, Ann. Hi, Mark.
Hi.
Hey, Holly, the supervisor of my favorite
That's right.
department, FLE.
Mark was just asking about who pays for all the FLE programs.
Yes.
Wait a second. Who can't be answered with a yes?
Well, technically you're correct. Yes is only part of the answer. You see, with all these different groups and programs, there are a lot of different funding sources. Sometimes it's the group we're partnering with, but sometimes it's funded by a third party, or partially funded by grants, or partial grants, or grants and gifts, or gifts like donations designated for the FLE program, or it might be from government funds earmarked for a super specific niche program for a designated period of time, of course. Typical sources could be DNA, JPO, PCCD, OMPP, CJAB, and LOHF.
Hold up. Wait. I feel like I'm swimming in alphabet soup here. Do you have any flashcards for this? How is this whole department not just completely overwhelmed?
Well, the short answer is that occasionally we do feel overwhelmed.
But the long answer is that even with the complex web of programs and funding sources and the headaches that go along with all of that, families are strengthened because of what we're doing.
And knowing that and remembering that helps us make sense of all the complexity. Not that we don't look for ways to make it more effective, because we do. Efficient.
And
it is very effective, all right. You know, Mark, another side of the equation is that grants and government funding sometimes don't match up with the start of the program or service, and that means COBE's has to cover the funding gap, and often these are one-time grants, and then we have to find new funding sources to continue the program. So that's when we look to you and Ann to develop partnerships with individuals and groups who share our mission to help us fill those and other funding gaps. So that would be part of the reason why we hold a banquet every year. But realizing it all comes back to the kids and the differences it can make in their lives and the lives of their families certainly helps us keep it in perspective. I hope that helps you, Mark. Do you have any other questions?
Well, even if I did, I'm not going to ask them tonight. I don't know how you keep it all straight. I find it all amazing, but thanks for coming over, Cindy.
You're welcome. It's definitely a tangled web, but we work with it. And you know, I always love to share the joy of accounting with you, Mark.
I know you do. That's right. Thanks for coming over. See ya, Cindy.
See ya.
Hi, Cindy.
So, Holly, do you have any stories about real people, not just these numbers and locations, that show how FLE makes an impact?
Well, yes, I do have a story. I would love to share a bit about a woman named Ida and her experiences. She's very open about what she's going through, and she said we can share her story. Ida is a grandmother that is now parenting her granddaughters. She is connected to Kobe's through our kinship resources, something both the FLE and post-permanency program address.
So, Holly, what exactly do you mean by kinship when you say that?
Kinship is when relatives are called on to raise extended family members, like grandchildren or nieces or nephews. These kinship arrangements are often sudden and unexpected and create a range of really unique challenges. Our Kinship Navigation Program is a newly formed program for those families, providing them with the support and referrals to address their specific needs. One unfortunate fallout from the opioid crisis is that more and more families are falling into kinship care. Our Kinship Navigation Program started with a short-term grant that ends this June. Right now, we are looking for a new way to fund this program and exploring potential funding streams, demonstrating again how we're like the little engine that could. Since Ida's story relates to the Post-Perm program, which is part of the adoption program, Mary Sorber, our Director of Placement Services, might be the best one to tell about Ida.
Then we should probably get...
Mary, I already texted her. I think that's her.
Good. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, and since I'm done, I'm gonna head out. You'll appreciate this story. Ida's also a great example of the little engine that could.
Bye, Holly.
See you, Holly.
So you'd like to hear about Ida? I could tell you about her, but maybe it would be better to hear it straight from her. But, no.
The way I became a full-time parenting grandmother is through addiction. Both of the parents now are in active addiction. The boundary that I set up for both of them is that they must go through Kobe's to see the girls. I ended up moving into a 3-bedroom apartment a month prior to getting a phone call that the girls were evicted and they were on a sidewalk. And the constable said, "Would you like to come pick them up?" All my prayers were always like that, God protect them, God protect them. And when I look back now, I see that he did more than that. He put them in a stable environment. Some of the challenges, probably more than anything, is that I'm overwhelmed. I'm exhausted. But more than that, with the girls, not understanding that they've been traumatized by the neglect, the insecurities and the fears, and how it's emotionally affected them. It's almost like, and this just came to me, it's like the picture of a tornado or a hurricane that goes through and does the demolition, and so then it's coming in and doing the cleanup. It's so hard to explain to somebody how a child is affected when the trauma isn't always like they get hit. Right. They didn't get hit. But if they came home from school and didn't have food till the next day when they went back to school, that's trauma. Of course, when you have a parent that everybody word gets out that they're in addiction, you don't have peers. Your friends are arm length. The parents protect their families from addiction. So to have the girls now be in, the 12-year-old in basketball, where she can have friends, be a part of a team. The 8-year-old is in gymnastics. She loves that. This isn't what we planned. This isn't what we anticipated, but this is what God's given us. So let's make the best of it. But more than anything is I was able to get into some counseling and some help because my life's been turned upside down. So I see a counselor now with Kobe's. but I've also got the 8-year-old who was addressing issues with aggression. She was more acting out in physical ways. And she knew the boundaries not to do it at school, but at home it was very difficult. So now she's seeing a counselor with Kobe's also. And I can tell you, like, since that has started, it has made almost, maybe not 360, but at least 330 of a change. And her being able to address her emotions, verbalize, redirect herself, just all of the things that we would need to get her more emotionally stable. That people need support. They need to know that there's somebody out there that does this professionally that can say, you know what, this is the role you need to take. These are the boundaries that would be good, healthy boundaries. What is the purpose is I'm the gatekeeper and I'm tending the gate. To keep the girls protected, to give them a healthy life. And what I've seen Kobe's do is they've come in and they've kind of like taken my arms that are like weary and hanging down, and they've lifted them to give me support. What hopes do I have for my family? Because I always ask for a word for the new year, and for the last 2 years the word has been hope. And that is just to continue to see them develop into the people that God's created them to be. That has been so stifled. And what I've seen, the changes that have come about is this pattern that we've set up with Kobe's helping with the sports and Kobe's helping with the counseling, for their lives to become more centered on being a purposeful life, being a fulfilled life. That's what God would have had them to be, not to be victims and not to be traumatized.
Kobe's offers Ida the support she needs doing the difficult work she does. She loves her granddaughters and wants to be her best for them and provide the best care for them.
Well, thanks for sharing that story. We admired the straightforward approach and openness that Ida shared with us. It helps us to put a real face to a story to show us all how similar we all are. It makes what we do a little more relatable.
She's not the only one. Actually, every one of our children and families in foster care, adoption, and the permanency unit come with their own story, each with their own challenges and hopefully, ultimately, successes. Unfortunately, there are always relationship casualties along the way, even with the children who end on a happy note. In a loving home through adoption, they had to separate from their birth parents. The goal remains to help them all reach their full potential.
Amen to that. Do you have another example in mind?
We do. Anne has arranged for them to stop by today. It is the Esch family. They have been served by several of Kobe's programs, so they can share with us their experiences of their journey. Certainly you'll hear how they dealt with the uncertainty of their maybe days throughout the process. Yes, Anne texted me about the book idea, and that's the name of one of the books we use to address the many questions children have as they work and wait through the often tortuously slow process of foster care and adoption.
So is there a particular part of that book that sums up that message?
There is. If you start on page 22, it describes what foster kids experience.
No matter what the judge finally decides, kids in foster care have to wait a lot while the grown-ups work on the plan. While kids are waiting, they sometimes feel worried or angry or scared or confused or many other things. Waiting can be hard. When kids ask questions, the grown-ups often say, maybe. Will I go back to my parents? Maybe. Will I stay with my foster parents? Maybe. Will I live with my brothers and sisters again? Maybe. Will I have more visits with my parents? Maybe. It can be hard having so many maybes. Any day can feel like a maybe day. Sometimes kids want to hear yes or no instead of maybe.
That tells what the kids in foster care are going through pretty well. The book ends by reminding kids that their job is to try to joyfully focus on just being a kid, doing fun things kids do. And what time are the Esches coming?
I think that's them. Hi, come on in. Kevin and Sarah, this is Mary and Mark.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, Kevin. Nice to see you. Hi, Sarah. Welcome, welcome. Have a seat. Have a seat. Thanks so much for coming and for agreeing to share your story. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves and your children?
Yes, so we are Kevin and Sarah Esch. We've been married for about 10 years, and about 4 years ago, we started our foster care journey. Our first child was a 5-year-old energetic boy, and then his sister was born about 6 months later, and then we were also given her. We later adopted them just this past December, so he's now 9, and she's now 3. He loves to help others. He has a special love for homeless people and trying to help them out. And he's very intelligent and enthusiastic and loves life. Kyrie's similar. She's a joy. She loves life, loves to have a good time. Right now, her biggest thing is she likes to always wear dresses and pretends to be like a princess.
Good. How and why did you become a foster and adoptive family? What led you to this point?
For Sarah, it was something that she always dreamed of. We talked about even before we were married that she had a friend that she knew went through foster care and was adopted when she was younger, and that had an impression on her heart. And so something we talked about, which I thought was a noble, neat thing of Sarah, just her caring heart. Then after we were married for a few years, we were talking about it more, and that's when it kind of became more reality to me. I'm like, wow, she's serious. This isn't just a nice, attractive, caring part of her heart. And up till then, my life had been very predictable and stable, and so it took a while for me to really come on board. I think my desire for just stability was almost greater than what I knew God was calling us into for caring for kids from a hard background. So it was a turning point for me was at a church event I was at that we were all individually supposed to picture like the biggest fear we had in our life, which for me was the future of opening our home to these children. And then the leader said, now picture Jesus' perfect love casting out that fear, like smashing it out, his perfect love. And that just wrecked me, and I realized, wow, like who am I to hold on to this fleshly fear of my future when it's got Jesus' perfect love that casts out fear. And that same perfect love is what he wants to pour through us into these children that can come in our home. So after that, we were all in, and then over the next year and a half, we went through all the training and approvals.
So why Kobe's? Why choose Kobe's over any other organization?
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of interaction with other organizations, and we knew of Kobe's, and right around the same time, we had some friends of ours that were going through training, and we looked into it and respected them and looked into the organization and appreciated the values, of course, being a Christian organization, and just felt it was a good fit for us.
Good. Can you tell us about some of the challenges that you have faced and also some of the successes?
Yeah, I would say some of the challenges was parenting. We hadn't parented before, and then we receive kids that are obviously going through a lot of transitions in their life, which often creates behaviors. So I would say that would be a challenge. Also, birth-parent relationships, how you support them through their journey while still caring for their kids. However, we luckily did have a good relationship with our birth parents and would support them by having our kids give them gifts and things over their birthdays and holidays, things like that.
So what services and programs of Kobe's have you actually utilized?
We used quite a few. Our son received counseling through Kobe's. He's now discharged from that service, but he made great improvement through that. We did the Incredible Years, which helped us with parenting and then also helped him with role playing and how to appropriately handle himself with other peers. And we also use the child prep services, which is somebody comes to your house and helps your child process the transitions that they're facing through foster care. And our son always looked forward to that.
Good. So what should other families who might be considering foster care or adoption know? Is there anything that you wish you would have known prior to this journey?
I think the biggest thing is just how many back and forths our case had. And for other people looking into it to understand, because of the complexity of the situation you're in the middle of and the different people that are involved, it gets very complicated. We assumed going into foster care that there would be two options. It would either be adoption or reunification, and we just kind of figured that, after they're with us for a while, you kind of know which way it's going. And after about a year and a half, we were told that children rights would be terminated from birth parents. Adoption was forthcoming. And then over the next 2.5 years, the case went back and forth many times. And that was really, really hard, especially when we had our daughter was with us from 2 days old till when she was 2, we were actually 3 days away from the final move that we would probably likely never see him again. So the back and forth was really hard, but the thing that we really clung to was God's grace through it all. And the thing I would say to anybody in foster care is, don't become a victim of the system. Don't become angry at God. I see so many people that just carry that anger and hurt and just angry at God, angry at the system, angry at the county, angry at the judge. And us as trying to just be loving parents, carrying that anger doesn't help what you're trying to do. So just to release it to God, surrender it to Him, and just live every day just loving the kids, because that's what they need right then.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for coming by. Thank you so much for being willing to open up your homes, your hearts to these kids. I believe you're making an eternal difference in this world, and I greatly appreciate your ministry. Thank you so much for everything you've done and for stopping by.
Thanks for the invitation.
Blessings. Thank you. Thanks, Mary and Ann, for introducing me to the Esch family. They are absolutely remarkable.
They are. But what is equally remarkable is that there are so many other families just like them who are also called to become foster and adoptive parents.
Mary, Maybe Days certainly fit the foster care program, but do you have another book in mind for the adoption program?
I sure do. I was thinking about an old favorite. Do you remember Corduroy?
Well, I do. He was a teddy bear, right?
He sure was. Actually, less than a pristine teddy bear. If you remember, one of his buttons on his overalls was missing, and he waited on the shelf at the store for a long time, hoping that someone would take him home. Some of our kids can identify with that. Corduroy tries very hard to find a button to improve himself, but there is a young girl who loves him just the way he is. Our adoptive parents are a lot like that. Here's what the book says. "I'm Lisa," she said, "and you're going to be my very own bear." She carried Corduroy home in her arms. Lisa sat down with Corduroy on her lap and began to sew a button on his overalls. "I like you the way you are," she said, "but you'll be more comfortable with your shoulder strap fastened." "You must be a friend," said Corduroy. "I've always wanted a friend." "Me too," said Lisa, and gave him a big hug. That's what our families and staff do too. Love the children as they are and help them be safe and more comfortable.
Thanks, Mary. We can definitely use that parallel at the banquet.
So is there anything else that you would like us to know about foster care or adoption?
Sure. You know we're truly blessed with our fostering and adoptive families, and a lot of people are at least aware of the great work we do in those programs at Kobe's. But I guess if there was something I wish they knew, is that the need is so much greater than what our pool of families can address. The Esch family is one of a small portion of families that are willing to keep siblings together. Not all of our families are equipped to do that, although that is one of the greatest needs. That and opportunities for children 5 years of age and older. You know, last year we received almost 1,600 requests for foster care in our geographic area, and we were able to place 67 of those children. We make a huge difference in the lives of those kids, but there are so many others out there who are not being served. We do phenomenal work, but there's a huge need.
Well, thanks, Mary. We certainly appreciate learning about the foster care and adoption programs through the eyes of the Esch family, and we appreciate all you and the staff do. Thank you, Mary.
Thanks, Mark, and thanks, Ann, for making the arrangements with the Esch family. They are a great example of what Kobe's families are like. We are grateful for all of them.
Thanks, Mary.
See you, Mary.
Welcome. Bye.
You know, Ann, as we plan this banquet, I'm reminded that our employees, the executive team, supervisors, caseworkers, and the staff are all the face of Kobe's every day. And the work they do day in and day out has helped us have a great reputation for delivering exceptional care and services to our clients and cases. We are indeed very blessed.
You know, Mark, we really are. And so if this banquet goes as we've started to plan out here today, we'll have represented each one of our ministries with an overview, an update from staff, and shared some of how some familiar stories illustrate our efforts, and also presented some real-life examples of Kobe's ministries in action.
Well, if we can do that at the banquet, Ann, people are absolutely going to want to help us.
I think so too. You know, I've been thinking this whole time that if we've heard from everyone today who visited, kind of parallels another popular book, The Giving Tree. In the story, there's a young boy enjoying playing under the branches of a tree. As the boy grows, he becomes a man, and the tree provides more than just shade. It gives its apples, its branches, and eventually even its trunk to benefit the boy. If you think about it, Kobe's is like that tree, in that we are there for all of the children and families every step of their journey. We provide assistance with their varying needs.
You know, I have that book right here. And you know what? You're right. Kobe's is like the Giving Tree. After seeing all the books recommended today, I realize how much children's books are not just for children. We adults can learn a lot from them as well.
You're right, Mark. You know, as Director of Development, I've also been thinking that in our own way, development is kind of like a ministry too. We're called to do what we can to assist the entire Kobe's team so that they're able to carry out the services directly to the children and families every day, and so that they're not worrying about anything other than the ministry they're providing. And you know what I realized is that the Kobe's development team is actually enormous. We might have a small number of staff, but the folks at Middle Creek are on our development team. Anybody who comes to bike and hike is actually on the development team. Any of the churches and different organizations that let us use space, host classes, all the folks that at Christmas time do kids' closet drives for us. In fact, you know, anybody that donates to Kobe's is actually on our development team. Whether you give a monthly gift, whether you give here through Extraordinary Give, it's really pretty incredible.
So yeah, if you think about it, you've probably got the biggest department at Kobe's. So how do we let the people know that what they're doing, the gifts that they're giving, are making an integral difference, or it's an integral part of what they're doing? Their gifts make a difference to Kobe's. I could have said that better.
Well, you know, I think we just tell them. The banquet is a great place to start to get that story out. With every interaction that you have, with every story that you might tell to a friend that has never heard of Kobe's before, they might not know the depth of services we provide, but with every donation and with all of that, you are part of what we do. You are part of the Kobe's team. The support that you're providing to us allows us to continue our Christian-centered mission, even as the ministries that we have change and the depth of services changes as well. You know, all of you help give all of those things, and I think most people would want to be a part of that.
So do I, and I think that would be a good way to wrap up the banquet. I assume then we would tell them the logistics about the various ways to give. They can either give online or through ongoing monthly gifts that they can set up with you, or by writing a check the day of the banquet and depositing it in the donation box that no doubtly will be right next to the exit on the table.
I agree, Mark. And you know, we humbly ask them and invite them to become part of the Kobe's story, to add their chapter by giving as you feel led. We invite them to consider the necessity of the services that Kobe's provides, and realize that each person and with each gift that you give, we are able to deliver our ministries and impacting for better the lives and the kids and families that we serve.
And then we'll thank them very much for coming to the banquet, for supporting our mission and ministry, and then we'll ask them to watch a short video showing some of the happy outcomes of our adoptive families.
Sounds like a good plan.
Will those who are able please stand for our closing prayer? Will you pray with me? Dear God, we are thankful for the wonderful food and fellowship that we enjoyed this evening. I'm thankful for all these people who came to learn more about the ministries of Kobe's. And God, we ask for your continued blessing on Kobe's as we seek to do what you have called us to do. And we pray for healing and wholeness for those children and families that we are privileged and called to serve. And now we ask for your blessing as we leave this place and go our separate ways. And it's in the name of Jesus that we pray all these things. Amen. Thank you for coming. You are dismissed.